Hello ravers, and welcome to the Electric DM10, a mini-series for the DJs and producers that have carried their name into the journey of sound for at least a decade and more. During the time of this recording and posting, the project being covered is still in the professional EDM scene, creating bangers, touring/performing, or both. As the world of electronic music has countless DJs and producers, many qualify for the 10-plus year streak series. Being in the EDM industry for this amount of time is no easy task, let alone in the professional environment. With that said, this series of videos will briefly cover the project, the members, and tours/travels. Most importantly, the music that got these projects the impactful recognition for the listeners and the fans of the thousands, millions, and in some cases, billions. For a project to qualify in this series, the following must be met. First, 10 plus years of the project name being active. Important note, project name cannot change to a completely different name. Second, at least one main headlining tour or direct support tour of the project's time. Special cases can qualify. And third, must have a minimum of 3 EPs, 1 album, and or several songs/remixes published. Special note, the project name can have a time of taking a break from the scene due to health/unfortunate circumstances, as long as the creator of the project doesn't confirm the end of such project in less than 10 years. With that said, let's start the 8th episode of the Electric DM10. Now, for the 8th installment, let's go back to the old school. The old school. We're talking about 1990s and onward. And this is going to be a trip for some of you because we are going to be covering none other than an OG by the name TJR. TJR, real name Thomas Joseph Rozilski, is a longtime DJ, producer, and remixer that has mainly been active in the EDM industry since the mid-2000s. However, Thomas has quoted to me personally, "I've been doing music since the mid-90s." Being known in these categories of EDM, Millboard Bounce, Electro House, Moombathon, Dutch House, and a few others. His well-recognized reputation continues to proceed even after taking a long break from the performance scene. Before seeing the music he has created, let's see how much info we can discover on his early years, shall we? TJR, aka Thomas, was born in Danbury, Connecticut. Hesitating between a golfing career or music, TJR decided to become a DJ in 2004, taking the name very seriously. And this was after attending multiple acid house concerts throughout the years as he started to mess around with music as a hobby in the mid to late 1990s. His passion was first in creating remixes for the dance floor. Soon will follow his original tunes that would later make stable signature tracks. Honestly, many would still have flashback vibes of the early to mid 2010s when some of his songs would go on the set. TJR has created numerous remixes and original tracks since broadening out from his acid house and techno roots when he was starting out. Lastly, in 2008, this is where the name goes pro. Rising to the top with the mass success of his remixes and some originals in the late 2000s along with the early 2010s. TJR was being well recognized in a matter of few years. This soon elevated as he released a successful collab in 2012 with Pitbull. No, not the animal. Oh, this guy right here. There we go. Also with Ore de Oi in 2013. And of course, some of the OGs will still remember his signature song of Bounce Generation with Vainai. Soon, he was traveling the world to perform for the masses of crowds. One of them was none other than Ultra. His set in Ultra Miami was something to witness and vibe with live indeed. In all honesty, his set of Ultra Music Festival Miami 2014 is an underrated one for the ages. Strongly recommend you go hear it on YouTube. Banger after banger, and not to mention under the worldwide stage. Despite being a very hot day, this should have been an early opener for the main stage, in my opinion. Also performing with EDC, S2O Water Music Festival, and more. All of this was amazing, but something happened while he was at the zone of well recognition. TJR seemed to not really post much with his socials from what I went through as I'm creating this documentary. He hasn't officially left the EDM world, as I've seen some posts like in 2019 where he performed from Open to Close and Exchange LA. He also did do rave-a-thons during the time of the pandemic, as you can see this picture right here. However, this would be a good question to ask him if I ever get the chance to say why did he distance himself from the industry, more specifically in the performance scene. Some even mentioned in this Reddit post that I'm showing as an OBS recording, asking what happened to him, but with a couple of comments that are literally from mid-June 2024, and at the time I am doing this recording and posting, that's just like a couple of weeks ago. And going back a few months, TJR has returned to the scene. One thing is for sure, he never confirmed to officially leave the project entirely. Plus, he never announced on social media that he was done with being a DJ and producer entirely. Well, this just in, as I'm doing some final editing touches with the script, a comment on his Insta page, which I'll have this picture right here, asked of his absence, and Thomas replies with, "To recharge." A valid explanation coming from the legend himself. A big reveal of TJR's return after years of being on a hiatus was posted on his social media, and with this recording of me entering Academy LA in Hollywood, California, seeing this on the screen as a Y2K special, I was going to be in for something old school and interesting. Since I was kind of familiar with his Melbourne bounce status, going to the old school, this is something to witness.
We will have to do it in a very modern sense of blah, blah, blah. I'll just shut the fuck up. Get ready to go! Let's get it on!
Once he got on, it looked like he was about to take Hollywood back in time to the early 2000s, which was the special set before a back-to-back was placed as the main headliner. Once he played Blood is Pumping, I knew that he elevated the set to another level vibe.
Old school, let's freaking go!
On March 29, 2024, and in Academy LA, this was the return of TJR. Plus, I personally met him after the night ended, but more on that at the end of the video. TJR was known to perform in not only well-recognized EDM clubs, but also in massive festivals. Some include Ultra Music Festival in Miami, specifically in 2014, which is available on SoundCloud. Strongly recommend hearing it. ADC 2016, specifically in Circuit Grounds, S2O Music Festival, and others. Before jumping into the fun facts of TJR, let's take a look at his music pages. For SoundCloud, he has 296,000 followers, almost to 300k. Let's get him to 300k followers, people. And a total of 136 tracks. For Spotify, he has over 275,000 monthly listeners. Fun facts time. Some believe that he was a lawyer or a golfer before being a DJ and producer. Hey, TJR, just a personal question. If you see and hear this video, I golf too. So if you're interested in playing around on a golf course or just hitting some golf balls in the driving range in LA, let me know. I'm in. Thanks. Now back to the video. According to an article with news.djcity.com, he states the following about DJing. I don't play with a planned set. And he also quotes, I do have some ideas in my sets that are routines. So I kind of know ahead of time in those little areas. But it's all about simplifying, which is pretty unique to hear this from someone that has done this for years and years. Knowing how to DJ without having a pre-planned set is a skill indeed. Thomas has mentioned about the gear he used in interviews, and it's a standard approach in my opinion. And he quotes, once again, I like to try and use as much of the technology as possible, and a lot of that just comes from learning on vinyl. That's why I don't use a computer, which is standard if you're going to be going into these A-list clubs and festivals. I just try and use whatever's available on the CDJ and what's available on the mixer. His original songs and remixes could possibly be neck and neck. Wait, let me check that out. Just give me a moment. Okay, according to the small info I found on Wikipedia, that is, yes, I know this isn't the best source of info, and I also checked on SoundCloud. His remixes and his original works are almost neck and neck, but just slightly off. Some of his songs are in a cappella format on his SoundCloud page. Some include We Wanna Party, Polluted, Aciditized, and more. Now that the fun facts are out of the way, let's jump into some of the other info. One of them will be the record labels that he released under. Now we're going to talk about the OG stuff that he started to do. And some of the record labels would be Catalyst Records, Warehouse Records, X-Mint Entertainment, and several others from the mid-2000s. Going into the more familiar tunes that he has created in the mid-2010s, a few would involve Spinning Records, Catch Records, and several others. The collaborations. He has done a good amount in his career. Some include the following: Good Times Ahead, Nom de Strip, Dylan Francis, and a couple of other DJs that have DJ in front of their names, like DJ Dan, DJ Funk, DJ Gantmac, and such. Others TJR worked with involve singers like Cardi B, Pitbull, and more. Finally, into the discography. His songs, of course, he has made a plethora of songs, and they are through the roof. Well-known songs, as I mentioned earlier, but we'll mention them one more time, like Ode and Oi, Aciditize, We Wanna Party, Mic Check, and lastly, of course, we can't forget Bounce Generation and his most recent song that he has done with Mac J, Concentrate. Not only the original songs, but the remixes too. Some of these remixes go absolute ham on the dance floor, including his Talk Dirty remix from Jason Derulo with 2 Chainz, his Take You There remix from Jack U featuring Kaiza, Propaganda TJR, and Nom de Strip remix created by none other than DJ Snake, along with some of the OG tracks, including his remix of Electric Dyslexic from Scratch, Boogie Monster TJR remix from Armor Van Helden, and several others. Now for the EPs and albums, for the first time in the Electric DM10 documentary series, no EPs or albums are listed with this particular DJ and producer. Why he hasn't done one in his career is a good debated question to ask him. I say debated the question for this reason. TJR does have EPs in his Spotify and his SoundCloud pages, but these EPs have of one song that he has done and a bunch of remixes from others that have contributed to his original tune. This does not mean that I'm bashing on the project and what the EPs have been representing. What I state is that TJR hasn't done a batch of songs for minimum that are completely different from one another and placed them under a name EP ever. Or maybe that could change in the near future depending on what he would like to create in the studio. Now, onto one of my favorite parts of the documentary. It's my personal recommendations. So, if anyone is asking, who is TJR and what music should I listen to from him, I got you with a couple of tunes. And they may be redundant if someone is hearing this documentary from beginning to end, but I'll give it to you one more time. Aciditize, Mic Check, one of my favorites, Bounce Generation, and more, which there are others that I'm not mentioning, but they're on the screen right now. The remixes are absolutely insane, especially his remix of Propaganda, his remix of the Harlem Shake, his remix of Talk Dirty, and others. I'm even going to throw some of the old school remixes right on the screen. Last and certainly not least, my personal thoughts. I met TJR right after his special Y2K set, and that is me also staying for the main headlining set. After TJR, Soft as Hard and Chill went back to back with their Speed House status and their bouncy modern vibes, which was a really good set too. But me getting out of Academy LA, going back to my car, I saw TJR just looking around the streets of Hollywood, and he was just alone, and I had to say hi. So I went up to him. We both talked for a good 2 to 3 minutes, and one of his team members was there as well. Got to talk with him a bit as well. Honestly, a real trip to be speaking with an OG from the times that I was just an infant as he was starting out in creating and DJing with the music. You gotta remember, sometimes that with a good amount of DJs and producers that are still in the scene today have been doing their music projects since the 1990s and some even earlier than that. Some of them would be notified, would be Laidback Luke, Tiesto, Carl Cox, and many more. With TJR though, it is so good to know that he has returned to the performance scene, and before anyone ends up stating, what happened to TJR? Where has he been this entire time? Well, he is now back, he is recharged, and happy to say that he's got more in store for us. I believe he started to do some type of remix, a little event a couple of months ago, or if not, this was just recently where he will release a remix every week or so. So this is something to really keep your eyes on. For the OG is coming back to the decks, and he is going to storm the dance floor clubs like it was the old school. That'll do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Electric DM10 featuring TJR. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Have you seen TJR before? Will you go see him? I still have to see him with one of his classic sets, knowing of his Melbourne bounce status and his big room vibes. That is the one I am still down to go see. It was a real trip to see him for free, and with me going back into the old school of the 2000s electronic dance music, and this was like before I even knew what electronic dance music was. Once more, that'll be it for me. Thank you so much for listening to the End Ravers. TJR's music and his social medias will be in the EDM box below. Stick around for the next episode of the Electric DM10, which I am still thinking of who should I cover next. Lastly, keep listening, stay safe, and rave on.